Camilla Francesquini was born on December 3rd, 2021 in Naugatuck, Connecticut. Her mother's name is Crystal Neves, and her father's name is Christopher Francesquini. Little Camilla was adored by her family and was a happy, smiley baby who rarely fussed. She also loved watching Cocomelon and Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Camilla and her parents had been living with Christopher's father, Ramon, and Ramon's wife, and Ramon's daughter, Jasmine. Now, the couple, along with Camilla, had been living in the basement of the home since December of 2020 when Chris had been released from prison. Chris had been in prison for pistol whipping somebody close to death and had been sentenced in 2012 to 10 years behind bars, along with an additional 10 years of special parole for first-degree assault. But it was not long after his release that Christopher was back in jail again, the following November of 2021. This time, though, it was for an alleged carjacking in West Haven, Connecticut. He had been arrested just hours after, and while in police custody, Christopher fought with police officers, and he tried to escape their custody. He had actually stolen a pepper spray from one of the officers and began to spray it at them. So that gained him some additional charges. Keep in mind, this was only weeks prior to Camilla's birth. Probably not how a new dad should be acting. Christopher would not be released until June of 2022, on special parole with a $375,000 bond. He was then fitted with a GPS ankle monitor. And Christopher also had other arrests on his record as well. Possession of narcotics, risk of injury to a child, and assault and battery. Now, in addition to having a long criminal history, Camilla's father, Christopher, also suffered from multiple mental illnesses, including bipolar disorder. And Christopher had actually been put on medication for this, but his family said that they did not believe he was taking his medications. One of the reasons they believed this was because Christopher had told Camilla's mother, Crystal, that he heard voices that were telling him to kill his father, but he said he would never do that. He would never harm anyone. Which is odd because it seems like he tried to kill somebody back in 2012 by almost pistol whipping them to death. Chris could also be very paranoid, and he thought that somebody was out to get him. So since Christopher was incarcerated when Camilla was born, he didn't get to spend the first few months of her life with her. However, when he was released, Crystal said that Christopher was a great dad. He adored his daughter and always wanted to be around her. Christopher would also frequently post social media pictures of him and Camilla together. With Christopher on house arrest, he grew increasingly impatient and irritable. He was upset that he couldn't leave the house to look for a job. And on top of that, he and Crystal had been arguing more and more, and had recently been talking about ending their relationship. On the night of November 17th, 2022, Christopher would ignore his father, Ramon. Ramon had just finished feeding Camilla, and Christopher had not come up yet to get his daughter to put her to bed for the night. And Ramon asked Christopher if Camilla was going to be sleeping in the basement with them or up in his room in her crib. Since Christopher didn't answer his father when he asked him this, Ramon assumed that Camilla would be sleeping upstairs in his room. So he went to his bedroom to put her down for the night. Ramon thought this was kind of weird, since the little girl's parents were normally her primary caregivers. But on this night, Christopher seemed like he wanted nothing to do with his daughter. Then the following morning, on November 18th, 2022, Ramon would wake up early around 4:30 to drive Crystal to her job at Dunkin' Donuts. After Ramon had dropped off Crystal at work, he went back home to take a nap. At this time, he said that he did not know if Camilla was still in her crib. He had just assumed that she was, because the little girl would normally sleep until 11 a.m. And the playpen that she was sleeping in had a blanket over the top of it, so that she wouldn't get cold from the fan that was in the room. When Ramon woke up from his nap around 10 a.m., he noticed that there was a missed call from Crystal on his phone. And when he called her back, she asked him for a ride home from work. He agreed. But prior to him heading out of the house to pick up Crystal, Ramon heard his son, Christopher, in the basement. So he went downstairs to talk to him. When he did, Christopher told his father, "I'm mad at you. I hate you." Ramon asked him why, as he hadn't done anything. But Christopher just laughed and walked away. Brushing it off, Ramon left the house to go get Crystal. When they got back home, Crystal was tired from working such an early shift at work, and she decided that she wanted to take a nap. However, before she made it down into their basement bedroom, Christopher stopped her. He insisted that she did not need to lay down. Instead, they needed to go shopping for Thanksgiving food. Crystal told him fine, she would go, but she needed to change her clothes quickly first. However, Christopher did not want her to do that either, and told her not to go in the room. He said it was too messy, but he was going to clean it when they got back home later. Crystal saw a quilt on the floor and just wanted to move that out of the way. But Christopher objected, saying, "I gotta go before probation tells me no." I don't think he's supposed to be out of the house anyways. I don't think probation ever told him yes. So Crystal and Christopher left for the store after this, borrowing Ramon's Chevy Impala. The couple then headed to Waterbury. On the way there, Crystal said that she saw Christopher texting somebody, though she didn't know who it was. But he had texted them in regards to a mental health treatment facility called CMHA. So Christopher and Crystal were supposed to be headed to Walmart to buy their Thanksgiving food. But on the way there, Christopher had changed the plans. He needed his medicine, as he put it, so they were now going to be meeting up with somebody in the PetSmart parking lot. On their way to the store, many roads had been closed off, and Christopher had gotten angry at Crystal for it. His frustration would build until they got to PetSmart and a car pulled up next to them with a male driver in it, presumably who Christopher was meeting. And right then, Christopher would also ask Crystal if he could have her cell phone. She gave it to him, and then he asked her a strange question. He asked Crystal if she would do absolutely anything for him, even if that meant putting on a collar and a leash and being led around by him. To which she obviously said no, and she asked for her phone back, but Christopher would not return it. Crystal asked him several more times. Then Christopher said to her, "Since you want your phone so much," and he took his phone and her phone and smashed them into the ground. Crystal, who was scared and upset by the way Christopher was acting, decided to walk into PetSmart at that time to borrow a phone to call for another ride back home. Police would later find the two phones smashed in the parking lot, alongside a credit card with Christopher's name on it and his cut-off GPS ankle monitor. After she was able to make a phone call, Crystal returned back outside to wait for her ride, and at that time, she noticed that Christopher and the Impala were gone. Upon returning back from the pet store, Crystal went down to their room to clean up. And as Crystal entered the bedroom, she noticed that there was something red on the floor next to the quilt that she had seen earlier, and she figured that Christopher must have spilled something. So Crystal lifted up the quilt, and underneath there was red everywhere, along with the lifeless body of her baby girl, Camila. Crystal started screaming, "The baby, the baby!" Her family members rushed downstairs to see that the little girl had been stabbed as well as dismembered. Christopher's sister, who also lived in the home, would call 911. And Ramon would call his wife, who was at work, and he would tell her to come home because Chris killed the baby, he said. And when the first responders arrived, the paramedics checked Camila for signs of life, but the little girl was pronounced dead at 11:46 a.m. on November 18th, 2022. An autopsy of Camila's body was performed, and it was found that she had marks consistent with strangulation as well. Her cause of death was determined to be neck compressions with sharp force injuries. Her death was ruled a homicide. Upon searching the home, investigators would find several pieces of clothing in the basement bedroom where Camila had been found, and they would take these in as evidence. There were 2 gray Nike sneakers with blood splotches that were found on the other side of the room, away from where little Camila had been found. Family members later told the police that the shoes were indeed Christopher's. Detectives also found a t-shirt and a gray child's sock with blood on it, a towel, suspected marijuana joints, and a smoking device. Police determined that Christopher Francisquini was their prime suspect, and they placed a warrant out for his arrest. He was charged with murder and risk of injury to a child. A press conference was held on the day of Camila's murder in order to alert the public of the crime, as well as alert them that their main suspect was Christopher, and he was on the run. He was also likely driving the Impala. The FBI would also become involved with finding Christopher, and they would offer a $10,000 reward. And after days of searching for him, with no results, this reward would then be upped to $25,000. The search efforts for him were huge, and there were even billboards placed along interstates 84, 91, and 95 with a picture of Christopher, information about him, as well as the reward money for his capture. Police would speak with all of the members of Camila's family. The last time anyone had seen Camila alive was when Christopher's stepmother, the one whose room she had slept in the night before, had kissed the little girl on the head before she had gone to work. Now, this was around 7:15 in the morning. Police also wanted to know why Ramon had almost immediately after finding Camila's body told his wife that it was Chris who had done it. Ramon said it was because Christopher was the only one in the house at the time. Then he remembered that his daughter's boyfriend, Angel, was actually in the house as well. But Ramon was not concerned that Angel was involved in any way, because he only ever left his room to take medication and eat. He was also known to be very calm and non-confrontational. Ramon also said that Angel had no idea what had happened to Camila at the time of the interview. However, police also wanted to speak with Angel. Angel said he had gotten up that morning, gone downstairs to make himself some eggs and take his medication, and then he had returned back up to his room. He said he later heard screaming and then saw police cars outside the window in his room, but he didn't go outside because he didn't know what was going on and he didn't want to get involved. When Camila's mother, Crystal, spoke with police, she told them that when she had gotten in the car with Christopher earlier that day to go to Waterbury, she had noticed that he was profusely sweating, and when she asked him why, he just said it was because of the heat being on so high in the car. She also said she did not notice any blood on him at the time. Crystal was so confused, though. Christopher had never showed any signs that he would ever hurt his baby girl, and he had never told Crystal that he had had any voices in his head telling him to hurt their daughter. Christopher's sister, Jasmine, who lived in the house, spoke with police as well, and she told them that she was in and out of sleep from about 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. After that, she would get up and get ready for work. Jasmine told the police that she may have heard a faint cry in the morning, but she was unsure. She also said she had seen the Impala leaving the driveway earlier and had gone downstairs to have a word with her father, Raymond, about why Christopher was leaving the house when he was supposed to be on house arrest. Soon the police would begin to receive reports of interactions between members of the public and Christopher. And one of these reports led police to find the gray 2006 Chevy Impala that Christopher had been driving. The car was found on the same day that Camila was murdered. It was found abandoned with an empty gas tank on the side of Interstate 91 South in New Haven. The person who had called in this tip told the police that he had helped Christopher, who had been parked on the side of the highway while the man was on his way to get his son. The man told police that he had driven Christopher to multiple gas stations looking for a gas can. He also let Christopher use his cell phone. After a little while, he told Christopher he needed to go. He had to go pick up his son, and he wouldn't be able to help him any further. He did, however, leave him with a few dollars and directions to New Haven. Upon locating the Impala, police recovered 13 pieces of evidence, including a black folding knife, which they would later find out was indeed the murder weapon, and they found splotches of blood on the driver's seat as well as a few other places in the car. There were reported sightings of Christopher on Quinnipiac Street in New Haven later that same weekend. Then yet another person called into police and reported that they believed they had interacted with Christopher. Christopher had run out of gas again and he had no money, so he wanted to know where the nearest bus or train station was. This caller also reported that Christopher had altered his appearance but was still recognizable. Police would finally end up taking Christopher into custody 2 weeks after Camila's murder. Another citizen had called in and told police that they had seen Christopher at a bus stop on December 2nd. Christopher was then surrounded by officers with their guns drawn and placed under arrest. I have a little bit of the body cam footage here that I'll play for you.
Get on the ground! On the ground!
Get on the ground!
On the ground!
Get on the ground now!
I got him.
Close your hands. Get on the ground. Get on the ground. Get on the ground. Get on the ground.
Get on the ground.
On the ground. On the ground.
Get on the ground.
Put your hands out now. Behind your back.
Christopher was then charged with murder under special circumstances. He was also charged with risk of injury to a child, second-degree breach of peace, and second-degree criminal mischief. He was held on a $5 million bond. During the 2 weeks that Christopher had been on the run, he also had missed 2 court dates in Bridgeport and Milford, which led him to racking up failure to appear charges on pending cases. When Christopher went before Waterbury Superior Court, he waived his right to a probable cause hearing and entered not guilty pleas on his charges. The total of his bond amount was also increased at that time to $7 million. The judge would also issue protective orders barring Christopher from communicating with 3 unnamed people, though my guess is that it's Crystal, his father, and his stepmother or his sister. At the time of this hearing, Christopher's attorney also asked the judge to place his client on a self-harm watch. And luckily, Christopher, who is still being held, will not be released from jail even if he was somehow miraculously able to come up with the money for his $7 million bond. Due to his parole being revoked on other cases he had been out on bond for prior to his daughter's death. At most of his hearings since his arrest, Christopher has also refused to speak out loud to the judge or anybody else.
This hearing happened very quickly. His attorney requested a probable cause hearing, and right when Francis Queenie was being escorted out the courtroom, we heard a very strong reaction from his father.
You're all set.
Great, you're not gonna say nothing? Great! You're not gonna say nothing? You're not gonna say nothing?
The father of Christopher, Francis Queenie, having a major outburst in the courtroom as Francis Queenie remained silent during the brief hearing.
So police would soon find out that on the day of Camila's murder, after Christopher had left the parking lot of PetSmart, he had allegedly changed his clothes at an apartment in Waterbury before he headed to New Haven. Christopher had gone to this apartment looking for someone he knew who resided there, but they had not been home at the time. Christopher, however, knew some of the other people who were at the apartment at the time, and they allowed him inside. Several people would tell police that they knew Christopher's brother, but they hadn't seen Christopher or talked to him in years prior to that day. They also noticed that he had been extremely sweaty, and he had asked a few of them if they wanted to buy his dad's car from him. Another person at the apartment said that Christopher had used his phone to make fake Facebook and Snapchat accounts. This person also told police that Christopher had asked for a sweatshirt, and someone had given him a white sweatshirt with a black and white checkered pattern on it, the one he was seen wearing in the security camera footage. And ironically, 4 days before the homicide, Christopher had actually received a favorable report from his probation officers, who oversee pretrial defendants released on bond. And Christopher had been allowed to be removed from his court-ordered house arrest on Thanksgiving as well as Christmas Day. Christopher's trial date for Camila's murder has yet to be scheduled, but he is currently being held at the Garner Correctional Institution, where inmates with serious mental health disorders are placed. Little Camila had died just weeks prior to her first birthday, but her family and the community would celebrate her on that day anyways. They came together in the center of Naugatuck to hold a candlelight vigil. The Naugatuck police asked the community to wear pink or display pink lights on Camila's birthday, December 3rd. The Naugatuck police also wore their pink #Justice for Camila bracelets in show of support for Camila's loved ones. And Camila's mother, Crystal, spoke to the crowd, thanking them for their support since the murder, and saying that the best birthday gift for her baby is justice. On the 6-month anniversary of Camila's death, there was also a private memorial service. Members of the Naugatuck police attended as well, many of them who had severely been affected by Camila's death. The memorial service included a tree planting ceremony. The tree was a dogwood donated by the Waterbury Home Depot. Lilac lettering was painted on a nearby stone reading, "Your memory will forever bloom." Well, thank you for listening to all of Camila's story today. Camila's murder was one that nobody had seen coming, but people who are as violent as Christopher was known to get can be completely unpredictable. This man was just dangerous to be around, from the sounds of it. A ticking time bomb. Sweet little Camila didn't stand a chance. So if you do like true crime and you want to hear it from me, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button below and turn on your notifications too, so you'll know when I upload a new video, which is 2 to 3 times every week. Thanks for watching A Wicked World today. Until next time, take care guys. Bye. Harmony was born June 7, 2014, in Massachusetts, to her parents Crystal Sorey and Adam Montgomery. When she was born, Crystal was actually an active addict, and her and Adam were no longer together. Adam was actually in jail at the time of Harmony's birth. He was serving time because he had shot a man in the head during a drug deal in Haverhill, Massachusetts. Off to a good start. He actually ended up pleading guilty in this case to assault and battery with a dangerous weapon, carrying a firearm without a license, discharging a firearm within 500 feet of a building, and larceny from a person. He was sentenced to only 18 months in jail. So soon after Harmony's birth, he was released again. As you can tell, sweet little Harmony was not born into the greatest life. She was really never given a fair chance from day one because of her parents. But looking at the pictures of Harmony, you would never know that that was her situation because she's smiling in all of them. She looks happy, and that breaks my heart even more, thinking that this little girl could still put on a smile and seem happy with all the things that were going on in her life. It's said that Harmony was a very independent little girl, and it started when she was just a toddler. She liked to read books, she loved playing with dolls and Barbies, and she was very social and loved to play with kids her age all the time. She was described as charming and very active. She was a sweet girl, and she was known to be very empathetic as well. When she was younger and in one of her foster homes, she had access to a vegetable garden, and she loved going out there and picking the vegetables. Now, Harmony was actually born legally blind in one eye, and she had a few other special needs as well. Now, when Harmony was born, Crystal ended up having sole custody, as, like I said, Adam was still in jail. However, it didn't take very long for DCF to come and remove her from Crystal's home because there were reports of neglect. At only 2 months old, Harmony was placed in foster care for the first time. She kept getting bounced back and forth between foster care and her mother's home. Her mother would straighten up a little bit, and then there would be reports of neglect again, and she would go back to a foster home. And this happened quite a few times. So this poor little girl didn't have a stable environment from day one. This happened until Harmony was 4 years old. Once Adam was out of jail, he married a girl that he had met back in high school, and her name was Kayla. She soon became Kayla Montgomery. I'm not sure what her maiden name was. The two of them got married on June 7th, 2017, which ironically is Harmony's birthday, June 7th. The two of them have 3 children together. In February of 2019, Adam Montgomery was given sole custody of Harmony by the Lawrence, Massachusetts Juvenile Court. Adam had had around 40 hours of supervised visits with Harmony, as well as a reunification plan. However, DCF failed to check Adam's background, where Adam was living, where Adam was employed, and they also failed to check to see if Adam was able to handle Harmony's special needs. Since they didn't check for any of this before giving Adam custody, I really doubt they checked anything, because those seem like the most important things to me. What did they check is the question that I have. Harmony's mom, Crystal, was supposed to show up for the review and the redetermination of Harmony's custody. Unfortunately, she was not able to because she was in a different court on a care and protection case in regards to Harmony's half-brother. Even though she was unable to make it because of something that was also very important and was a court hearing, Adam's case moved on anyways. Had she been there, she might have been given custody because at this point, Crystal says that she was clean. I don't think that that would have necessarily been the best home for Harmony either, but it might have been a little bit better than what Adam gave her. Crystal's willingness and fitness to have Harmony in her custody was never even explored. They never even touched on the issue. They also never assessed Kayla, Adam's wife, as part of Harmony being in his custody. I mean, of course they didn't. They didn't look at really anything as far as Adam goes, so why would they look at anything as far as Kayla goes? They didn't care from the sounds of it. It sounded like they were done with her case. She was 4 years old. She'd been in the system for 4 years, and they wanted to wrap it up. I mean, I don't know for sure, but that's what it sounds like. The home that Harmony was given to was not a safe home. Kayla and Adam were both active addicts. They also had 2 other children that were living in the home as well. There were constantly people coming in and out, buying drugs, bringing in weapons. It was not a good place for children. And like I said, DCF never checked any of this. Had they checked, maybe this wouldn't have happened. It said that part of the reason why these checks weren't done is because the hearing for Harmony's custody was done in Massachusetts, and Adam lived in Manchester, New Hampshire. And this might have been why some of the checks weren't done. It just got overlooked because it was a state-to-state case. There's really no excuse for it, but I believe that that is part of what happened. So let's talk about Adam for a minute. Adam Montgomery is a huge piece of shit, and that is a fact. New Hampshire governor actually described him as a monstrous drug dealer with previous convictions, including shooting someone in the head and a separate armed attack on 2 women. Adam's long criminal history started when he was just a teenager. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about some of his criminal history. There's honestly so much, though, that I can't even get into all of it. And they gave this man custody of a child. Multiple children, actually. He had custody of a few children, and nobody did a goddamn thing about it. When Adam was only 16, this is around the time that his criminal history started. So in 2006, he was living in Bedford, Massachusetts, and he was charged with having a dangerous weapon on school grounds. The next year, in July of 2007, Adam was accused of following a 15-year-old girl home. After shouting that she had stolen his cell phone, he followed her into her front door. He was charged with burglary and misdemeanor simple assault. This case was later dropped. In September of 2007, the Bedford police charged Adam with criminally threatening his former girlfriend with a knife. He was sentenced to 110 days in jail for this. Adam was charged with stabbing somebody in the leg and pushing him out of a moving vehicle near Bridge and Belmont Street in Manchester, New Hampshire. The incident supposedly happened because of a drug ripoff, in which Adam believed he was sold fake drugs. He only served 383 days of his 4-year sentence. In New Hampshire alone, Adam has 21 items listed in his criminal history, and that's not even including some of the ones with Harmony now. Adam didn't just stick to getting in trouble in New Hampshire, though. He also came down to my neck of the woods, Massachusetts, and started creating chaos down here as well. Actually, his most violent crimes occurred in Massachusetts. In 2008, he was convicted of a robbery where he burst into an apartment in Malden, Massachusetts, and demanded money from a woman at gunpoint. He pled guilty to armed robbery and assault and battery with a deadly weapon. And there was also the one, like I said earlier, of the man that he shot in the head. There's been other ones, but I can't get into all of them. There's plenty more. Just one of these things on his criminal history should have set off, hey, let's not give him a child, but they didn't even look, so they didn't know. Now, once Harmony was in Adam's custody, Crystal would video call from time to time to say hi to Harmony. The last time that Crystal remembers seeing her, however, was around Easter of 2019, and she said that at that time, she could see Adam in the background of the video call, and Harmony seemed frightened. After that, Adam and his wife Kayla blocked Crystal on everything, their phones, social media. She couldn't get a hold of them. So on July 29th of 2019, DCYF received an anonymous call alleging that there was abuse of Harmony in Adam's home. We later found out that this anonymous call was actually Adam's uncle Kevin. Adam had admitted to his uncle Kevin that he had, quote, bashed Harmony around the house the other day. This happened after an incident when Adam stepped away from his baby for a minute and he asked Harmony to watch the baby while he went to the bathroom or dealt drugs or whatever it might be. And the baby started crying. Well, Harmony, just being a little girl of 4 or 5, didn't know any better, and she didn't want her dad to get angry at her, I'm sure. So she took her hand and she put it over the baby's mouth to make the baby stop crying. Adam walked back into the room, saw this, and got so angry that he started beating poor little Harmony and gave her a black eye. A child protective service worker was sent out to the home after this. However, emails to the Manchester police said that there was no black eye observed. I don't know if they waited too long and it had already healed, or what the situation was, but they did not witness a black eye on Harmony at the time. On August 7th of 2019, a child protective service worker went to the house again just to check on things. The worker noted that there was a red mark near Harmony's eye, as well as faded bruising under her eyelid. Adam said that the mark was just caused by another child hitting her with a toy, and Harmony said, yeah, that's what happened as well, because, you know, she's not going to say anything else in front of her dad, who hits her and punches her. The final visit from Child Protective Services while they were living in the current house that they were living, which was on Guildford Street in Manchester, came in October of 2019. The worker then reported that all the children looked happy and healthy. In January of 2020, DCYF received a report. When DCYF at this point asked Adam about Harmony, he reported that she had been living in Massachusetts with her mother, Crystal, since Thanksgiving 2019, a few months prior. DCYF reportedly tried to contact Crystal and confirm this. However, Crystal never ended up returning those phone calls. So she too clearly cares a whole lot. In January of 2021, as well as March of 2021, DCYF received additional reports concerning the Montgomery household, and they were both unrelated to Harmony. When DCYF asked Adam again about where Harmony was, he again reported that she was with Crystal in Massachusetts. On November 18th, 2021, Crystal Sorey made a call to the Manchester police to report that her daughter, Harmony, was missing. This had only come to light because the adoptive parents of Harmony's biological brother had been pushing to get the two of them together for a play date for almost a year. And they finally got very concerned and were like, what's going on? So finally, Crystal decided to call the Manchester police. After not being able to find Harmony for almost a year and giving them excuses for an entire year, she finally called the police. Crystal also told the Manchester police at this point that the last time she had seen Harmony was on a video call around Easter of 2019. At this point, DCYF tried to confirm Harmony's enrollment in a Manchester school. None of them said that she was enrolled. So at this point, the Manchester police began attempts to locate the Montgomery family. They were no longer living in the house that they had been prior, and they couldn't find them. 5 weeks later, on December 27th of 2021, DCYF informed the Manchester police that they were unable to locate Harmony, and the police began their search for Adam. Soon after, Crystal also sent a letter to the Manchester mayor, Joyce Craig, requesting help to find Harmony. On December 31st of 2021, the Manchester police announced to the public Harmony's disappearance, and that day the search began. On that same day, Kayla Montgomery was brought in to speak with detectives, and the police also located Adam, who was found sleeping in a car. At this time, the police described Adam as being completely uncooperative and hostile. They were asking him where Harmony was. They said, "You're not in trouble, we just want to know where Harmony is." And he told them, "Either arrest me or I'm leaving," and would not give them any information.
What's your name, my man?
What?
Adam.
This police body cam video obtained by News 9 Investigates was taken on December 31st, 2021, the day Manchester police announced a missing persons investigation for Harmony Montgomery.
On top of your head.
What's going on now?
This was the first interaction between Adam Montgomery and Manchester police after officers located him sleeping in a car in Manchester's Wolf Park. In the video, officers ask Montgomery about his daughter's whereabouts.
You just need to find out where she is. That's all I'm concerned about. You're not in any trouble right now that I know of. Okay. You have no warrants. Okay. So, where's your daughter so we can check on her to make sure that she's okay?
Right now, I have nothing to say to you guys.
But that's not what I'm just asking where she is.
I have nothing to say.
The interaction lasts about 45 minutes before Montgomery is sent on his way. Police track Montgomery down again later that day, serving him with a court order to produce Harmony.
Some detectives want to speak with you. Just being detained at this point.
During an interview with detectives, Montgomery is asked several times about his daughter.
This isn't going to go anywhere. Like, this isn't going to stop. So,
no, no, it's not.
So either get on the bus now or get run over.
Well, I got nothing else to say.
Luckily, a few days later, he did get arrested. The detective started asking Kayla when the last time she had seen Harmony was. She said that it was 2 days after Thanksgiving, Adam was actually driving her in to Dunkin' Donuts for her work shift. And during that drive to work, Adam supposedly told Kayla that he was dropping Harmony off that day at her mother's house. Kayla claimed that she hadn't seen Harmony since that day. Under oath, this is also what she told the grand jury. Adam had a friend named Matt Garcia that he had known for most of his life. Matt was dating a girl named Courtney O'Brien. Courtney said she had a conversation with Adam between late December of 2019 and mid-January of 2020. At which time, Adam told her that Harmony was at her mother's because she kept pissing her pants all the time and he couldn't deal with it, and that she was better off with her mom anyways. Matt also spoke with Adam, and Adam said something very similar. He told him that Harmony had gone back to live with Crystal because she wouldn't stop pissing and shitting her pants. He said she was, quote, driving me nuts. We were living in the car, so I had her mom come and get her. If you remember earlier, he supposedly told Kayla that he was going to go to Massachusetts to drop her off, but now he's telling this person that her mom came and picked her up. Adam also said to Matt, Harmony was having accidents all the time, every 5 minutes, and he just couldn't deal with it anymore. Adam was arrested on charges related to Harmony on January 4th of 2020, and he was formally charged and arraigned the next day. The charges were second-degree assault, relating to the time that he had given Harmony a black eye back in July of 2019, interference with custody, and 2 charges of endangering the welfare of a child. Now, police were already suspicious of Kayla's account, as Crystal was adamantly denying that she had custody of Harmony at any point during that time. The police had already spoken with Crystal's live-in boyfriend as well, and he said that Harmony had never lived with the two of them, and he actually had never even met Harmony in person. After contacting the Dunkin' Donuts that Kayla said that she was working at the time in Manchester, New Hampshire, they found out that she was not working at that location at all. She had been working at a separate Dunkin' Donuts location in another part of New Hampshire. But when they called that Dunkin' Donuts, they found out that Kayla had actually been fired from that location a few days prior to when she said Adam had driven her in. It was actually prior to Thanksgiving that she had gotten fired, and she said that Adam drove her into work after Thanksgiving. So that wasn't lining up. An arrest warrant was obtained for Kayla, and she was charged with 2 counts of perjury. On June 3rd, 2022, police gave Kayla a plea deal if she would testify against Adam. And here's what she said happened to Harmony. Harmony lived with Adam, Kayla, and their children at 77 Guilford Street in Manchester until the family got evicted on November 27th, 2019, the day before Thanksgiving. Once they got evicted, the family started living in their car, which was a silver 2010 Chrysler Sebring. They were parking in the parking lot of the Colonial Village Apartments as they had a friend who lived there and he was letting them stay in the parking lot. So on the morning of December 7th, 2019, the family was on their way to Burger King to grab some breakfast. Harmony was in the back passenger side of the car and Adam was driving. Harmony had another bathroom accident, like Adam had claimed she was doing frequently. And Kayla said that after each accident that Harmony had been having, Adam was punching her in the face with a closed fist. She was a 5-year-old. In an abusive and unstable environment, of course she was having accidents all the time. That's your fault, Adam. That's not hers. Punch your own self in the face, you fucking idiot. So Adam, being the great guy he is, didn't consider any of this, of course. So that morning on their way to Burger King, Harmony had another accident. Well, Adam, even though he was driving, turned his full body around and hit Harmony with a closed fist to the face again. Over the course of the next couple minutes, he hit her again, another 2 to 3 times, making a total of 3 to 4 blows to the face for this poor 5-year-old. After his last blow hit, he said that he heard or felt something, and he told Kayla, I think I did something. I think I really hurt her this time. Kayla says that Harmony then made moaning sounds for about 5 minutes, and then it stopped. The family returned to the parking lot at the Colonial Village Apartments for about 20 minutes. Kayla says she doesn't remember what happened then, but after that, they left again. When they left the parking lot again, their car broke down shortly after. And this is the time where Kayla says that her and Adam discovered that Harmony was dead. At no time during this, between the time that Adam punched her in the face and the time that they found out she was dead, there was no talk whatsoever of getting medical help for her. Even though Adam knew he had done something serious, nobody thought about getting her help. Once Adam realized that she was dead, he went to the trunk and he emptied out his red and black Under Armour duffel bag. He then took Harmony's body and put it into the duffel bag. They then left the car to get towed and traveled back to the apartment complex. Now, Kayla says they traveled back on foot and Adam carried the bag. But his friend Anthony, who lives there, said that somebody dropped them off. Anthony says once they arrived back, this time, he sold them fentanyl and crack. And he said that drugs seemed to be the couple's main concern at the time. At this point, Anthony also told the family that they could stay in his Audi that was out in the parking lot since they didn't have a car to sleep in anymore. So for the next couple nights, that's where the family slept. During this time, Adam would keep Harmony's body in the duffel bag in the trunk of the car. But he would also take it out and put it in the snow sometimes as well to slow down the process of the decomposition and to not make Anthony's car stink. This started the movement of Harmony's body for the next few months. From mid-December to the end of December, the Montgomerys moved in with Kayla's parents. During that time, Harmony's body remained in the duffel bag and then was put inside a red and white cooler. And that cooler was left out in the hallway of Kayla's parents' apartment. And it was left there for the entire 2 to 2.5 weeks that they lived with her parents. 3 weeks after Harmony was allegedly killed, the Montgomerys moved into an apartment at the Families in Transition shelter. Kayla told police that Harmony was still in the duffel bag, but Adam took that bag and wrapped it up in a trash bag, and then placed the bag in the ceiling vent above the bedroom. As her body started to decompose, it started leaking and smelling, so Adam took another trash bag and wrapped it in another trash bag. When maintenance came to check out the vent to see what was going on, Adam took Harmony's body out and put it in the closet while they were there. They said, oh, must have just been a dead animal up there or something, but nothing's there now, so all good. Detectives accessed the ceiling vent, where Kayla said that Adam had hid Harmony's body while they were living there, and they discovered staining as well as a smell that was lingering. The entire ceiling grid was removed for DNA testing, and it was found that that actually was Harmony's DNA. Kayla said that after they lived there, they moved to another apartment, and this was at 644 Union Street in Manchester. She said Adam took the Under Armour duffel bag that was wrapped now in 2 trash bags, and he put it into a plastic bin storage container, which was then pushed in a stroller from the Families in Transition shelter to the new apartment. There, Adam put the container in the closet of their new apartment. Kayla said that Adam at one point also took the Under Armour bag out of the plastic bin and noticed that it was leaking again. So he wrapped another trash bag around it and put it in the refrigerator at the apartment this time. Keep in mind, they also have 2 children with them, the couple, this entire time. 2 other children that are probably scarred for life and traumatized now because of this. At some point after Harmony's body was placed into the refrigerator, Adam decided that he was going to transfer it to a new bag because the Under Armour bag, I'm sure, was completely soaked from the decomposition of Harmony's body. Kayla said that at this point, Adam brought the bag with Harmony's body in it into the bathroom of their apartment. She said Adam spent 4 to 6 hours inside the bathroom with the shower running most of the time. Kayla said that after that, Adam placed Harmony's body into what she called a Catholic Medical Center maternity bag. This bag was a lot smaller than the Under Armour duffel bag, and it would likely not fit Harmony's body unless it was dismembered or grossly distorted. Kayla described the odor coming from the bathroom while Adam was doing this as well. Kayla said that she saw steam coming out from underneath the bathroom door, and then when Adam later left, she smelled ammonia and cleaning products. Adam took the CMC, the Catholic Medical Center, bag and placed it in the freezer at the apartment at that point. That same day, Adam had to go into work at his job at the Portland Pie Company, and he requested that Kayla take the CMC bag and bring it down to his work. He was going to store it in the freezer there. Yeah, he was going to store it at his work. His dead child's body he's going to store in the freezer at his work. So what Kayla did is she took the bag out of the freezer containing Harmony's body, and she put her 2 children into a stroller and placed the bag in between her kids and walked down to the Portland Pie Company to deliver the bag to Adam. I feel so bad for Harmony, but I also feel so bad for their other children because the things that those children must have seen is unbelievable. The bag stayed in the freezer of Adam's work for only a few days before he brought it home again. He brought it home because he wanted to put some lime inside of the bag to help with the decomposition of Harmony's body. Kayla explained that Adam dumped out the bag containing Harmony's body into the bathtub. Kayla said that Harmony wasn't just bones at this point. She still had hair, she still had her skin. You could still tell that it was the little girl. Adam put about half the bag of lime into the CMC medical bag. Kayla said that Adam had a difficult time getting Harmony's body back into the bag, as her body was still frozen as well. Kayla saw Adam running the hot water from the shower onto Harmony's body, trying to thaw it out so that he could bend it and get it back into the bag. He started squishing Harmony's flesh to try to pack it down further and get the ice out. Kayla said she helped cut Harmony's clothes off of her body to save space in the bag as well. Kayla describes Adam as pushing and pushing on her flesh until she heard a bang. She doesn't know what the bang was, but I'm guessing he broke some bones. Adam also banged the bag hard on the bathroom floor as well. After the bag was finally zipped shut, it went back into the apartment freezer again. Adam kept Harmony's body in the freezer at that apartment until sometime in the beginning of March 2020. The family went to a hotel for 2 nights. At this point, Adam told his friend Travis Beach he was living at the Econo Lodge in Manchester, New Hampshire, because DCYF would not leave him alone. And he also told him that he needed to rent a U-Haul, but he couldn't do it because he didn't have a credit card or a debit card in his name. He probably did, but he didn't want to get caught, so he had his friend do it. Nice, huh? Adam convinced Travis and Travis's girlfriend, Brittany, to help him rent the U-Haul. Adam brought the CMC bag with Harmony's body in it to the hotel and placed it in the mini refrigerator in room 216. Kayla said that after the U-Haul was rented, Adam left in the middle of the night at around 1 a.m. Adam told her he was leaving and he would be back, but he didn't want to tell her where he was going in case something like this happened. And what he meant by that is in case Kayla started talking to the police, which she had. Adam had told Travis, his friend at this point, that he had done something bad and he had fucked up. Travis also said that he told him that he just needed to get rid of some stuff. Travis said that they might have gone to the west side of Manchester and possibly a road with the letter C. Not very helpful. The logs that were kept at the U-Haul store where the van was rented were looked at. And it was determined that the van was picked up at 5:49 on March 3rd, 2020, and returned at 1:47 p.m. the next day. The van traveled around 133 miles and recorded 3 toll violations in Massachusetts at the Tobin Bridge on March 4th at 4:44 a.m., 4:45 a.m., and 5:25 a.m. The U-Haul van that Adam used was actually sold at an auction in May of 2021. However, investigators were able to locate it and they swabbed it for blood. And there were chemical reactions that indicated that there was blood in a few spots throughout the van. It's yet to be heard if it was a match to Harmony's blood. Now, when Adam got back to the hotel, he got back around 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. At this time, Kayla said he looked very tired and he reportedly told her, "It's done." Kayla said that after that, she never saw the CMC bag again. Harmony's relatives later said that they had heard Adam would make her stand in the corner for hours on end, spank her, and make the 5-year-old clean the toilet with her own toothbrush.
He told me, he said, if I ever get her, you're never gonna see her again. And I told DCF this, I told them, you know? I said, that would be the biggest mistake you ever make. Because he hated women. He hated women. He hated his mother. His mother abandoned him. Like, he had terrible history with women. He's a woman beater. Like, I knew that. He used to put his hands on me. Like, I didn't want him to have any type of control over his daughter.
In October of 2022, Adam was charged with 1 count of second-degree murder for recklessly causing the death of Harmony Montgomery. The other charges against him are abuse of a corpse and for unlawfully removing, concealing, and destroying Harmony's body. His trial is scheduled for November of 2023. Adam was also found guilty of 6 felony weapon charges in a case that happened earlier this month, and that alone will set him up for at least 2 decades in prison. Kayla initially pled not guilty, but later accepted a plea deal. in which she agreed to testify against her estranged husband, Adam, in exchange for her sentence reduction or the dismissal of some charges. Kayla Montgomery was convicted of the 2 charges of perjury earlier this month for lying to the police. She was sentenced to 1.5 years in prison. She's also agreed to cooperate with the prosecutors in regards to Adam's murder case. Kayla definitely had more to do with this than she's leading on, so hopefully she ends up getting charged with more as more details come out about this case, because 2 counts of perjury is definitely not enough. She assisted in cutting the clothes off of Harmony. She knew about this for years and didn't say or do anything. She even helped Adam at points move Harmony's body around Manchester. She definitely deserves a bigger punishment as well.
What are your thoughts about Kayla Montgomery? On the one hand, she's going to be the most important witness in the trial of Adam, but she's in the middle of all of this. She's in the middle of all of it and claims to not know where Harmony's remains are. What do you think?
I had a lot of trouble with her throughout this case, because I'm a human. Like, I'm a victim of domestic violence, especially, you know, by him. So I know what she was going through with him. I know, you know. It still is not even a crumb of an excuse. Because if it had to be between me and a child, doesn't matter if it's a stranger, a stepchild, my boyfriend's child, my girlfriend's child, I don't care. If it had to be between me and a child, I'm going to choose me. So the fact that she didn't lift a finger to get her help, she did nothing, and then decided to just, well, not only that, but, you know, she laid down and got pregnant by him while my daughter was somewhere stashed in this house. That's a little part that everyone else seems to miss, is that she did have a 3rd child a month before they got arrested in 2021. She had a daughter. Go figure, right? And so it's like, I think about all of those pieces. Like, the only people that really think about though everything is me and my family, you know. A lot of people see what they see on social media or the TV or whatever, but like, I know these details, you know. So that right there is just disgustingly sick. Like, you watched him murder a child and then you laid down with him and had another baby. And then, you know, the piece of, you know, her basically doing no time.
Yeah.
After she helped. No matter any way people want to put it, she helped.
So due to the amount of miles that Adam traveled in the U-Haul van and the toll violations, investigators were able to approximate where Adam had driven. However, it was a very large area. The Massachusetts State Police and the Manchester Police were out scouring Route 107 just a few days ago. Harmony has still not been found. Investigators actually went to the Union Street apartment as well and started searching the pipes. They removed some floor tile and they also took the fridge.
The police were in Revere, Massachusetts, which is just north of Boston, and they were searching in the marshes out there as well. So it's just an awful set of facts. There's the refrigerator being loaded onto the evidence wagon being taken out of there. And I'll tell you, Vinny, all of us in the media were stunned to see that.
Not only was poor Harmony abused in her life, she was abused in her death as well and treated like complete trash by her own father. She seemed like such a caring and happy little girl, and despite her terrible circumstances, so many people would have loved to adopt that little girl. But Adam, being the man that he is, had to take out his frustrations of his sad and broken life on this child. A child he had gone to court for to gain custody of. A child that he posted pictures of on Facebook saying how much he loved her.
If anyone out there is watching this and, you know, knows where Taylor is, just what message do you give to that person?
Please bring Taylor home.
Say something.
He needs his family. Home safely. He needs his family. Because he's missing his family. He's missing his mother. So he needs to be around people who love and care about him.
Taylon Mosley was born on March 21st, 2021, in St. Petersburg, Florida, to his mother, Passion Jeffrey, and his father, Thomas Mosley. Taylon was described as a sweet, silly, and happy little boy. His nickname was Tay-Tay, and he loved peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, Minions, Hot Wheels, and more than anything else, his mama. And Taylon's mother, Passion Jeffrey, was a 20-year-old single mom who worked full-time at a local CVS pharmacy. Passion was a hard worker and dedicated to providing a better life for her son. Passion was said to be very funny, and she loved to play pranks on people. Others said that Passion was a joy to be around, and in her spare time, she liked to cook and do some fashion designing. She was a native of St. Petersburg, Florida, and was an honor student at Boca Ciega High School, and then also at Northeast High, where she graduated in 2021. Now, Passion had become pregnant with Taylon while in her junior year of high school, but she had still continued to work hard and graduate on time with her class. The single mother adored her son and wanted to spend as much time with him as she possibly could. So when she had her breaks at work, she would FaceTime Taylon, who was usually being watched by either her mother or her great aunt. And Taylon loved these phone calls with his mother too, which became evident when he would start grabbing just anybody's cell phone during the day and pretending to call up his mother, Passion. The mother and son had just moved into their new apartment in February of 2023. Prior to that, they had been living with Passion's great aunt, Theo Brickhouse Sales. Their new apartment was located at the Lincoln Shores apartment complex on 4th Street North in St. Petersburg. And even though Taylon's father, Thomas, did not live with Passion and Taylon, he had been staying there for the last couple of weeks. About a month after they moved into their new place, on March 29th, 2023, family and friends gathered at Passion's new apartment. They were all there to celebrate Taylon's father's 21st birthday. Passion had put a lot of work into getting this party together, and everybody seemed to have a good time. The birthday party would end up winding down around 5:15 p.m., and all the guests would end up going home. That would leave just Taylon, Passion, and Thomas in the apartment alone. A few hours later, around 8:30 that night, a neighbor would say that she had heard a few noises coming from Passion's apartment, but it wasn't anything loud enough or notable enough in order to call the authorities. Shortly after this noise that the neighbor had heard, Thomas would leave Passion's apartment, and from there he traveled to the Lake Majori area, which is south of downtown St. Petersburg. After that, Thomas headed to his mother's house, which is also in St. Petersburg, about 15 to 20 minutes away from where Passion lives. So Thomas arrived at his mother's home a little bit past 9 p.m., and when he did, she noticed that he was injured. All over her son's arms and hands were multiple cuts and lacerations. And due to the seriousness of these wounds, Thomas then checked himself into St. Anthony's Hospital. The following morning on Thursday, March 30th, when Passion's great aunt Theo didn't receive a phone call from her niece, she started to become worried. Her niece would usually call her each and every day, multiple times each day. But this time, when Theo had even tried to reach out to her and call her cell phone, there was no answer. This was very unlike her niece. So as soon as Theo went on her lunch break, she got in her car and drove over to Passion's apartment. Once there, she noticed that there were traces of blood on the sidewalk leading up to Passion and Taylon's apartment. Theo frantically began knocking at her niece's door over and over, but with no answer. Not having a key to the apartment herself, Theo decided to call management and have them let her into Passion's apartment. Management would come quickly and unlock the door for Theo. And when she got into the apartment, the most horrifying scene awaited her. There was her niece lying on the bathroom floor, covered in blood. She had over 100 stab wounds to her body. Little Taylon, however, was nowhere to be seen in the apartment. Nobody knew where he was, so immediately police issued an Amber Alert. The public was told that the police believed the 2-year-old was likely in very serious danger. Authorities would deploy drones and a helicopter to help search for the little boy. They even brought in a bloodhound to see if it could trace any scent of Taylon. Dive teams searched local lakes, rivers, and ponds. In addition, a flatbed truck took one of the dumpsters from the apartment complex to be brought in and searched for any evidence. Passion's car was also searched. Volunteers also quickly came together to help look for the little boy.
We just want to say that Talon is a beautiful little boy. And he's really loving and caring. And he's just very sweet. And he'll smile and laugh at anybody. And there's Amber Alerts everywhere. And you guys have seen them. I have people all over the country calling me about the Amber Alerts. So I'm asking everybody, if anybody, somebody saw something, okay?
Please speak up.
What was your daughter like? What was her personality? What did she like to do?
She's very outspoken, always make you laugh.
Smile, beautiful smile all the time.
Always joking.
Trying to rap.
Laughing.
Always trying to rap, sing.
Scaring you when you're not expecting it, always hiding behind doors.
Yes, love to scare you all the time.
You know,
ever since she was like 3-4 years old.
She was 20, you know, but she's a loving kid and she loved that baby. That baby loves
so
her.
Sweet. I can remember when Taylor was born. I was coming from Seminole, you know, I working. He looked up at me like, I say, Taylor Mosley. And he said, huh? Closed his eyes. I said, okay. That means Glam need to go sit down now.
Yeah, and if he
but
calls
please,
for his
y'all,
auntie,
please.
that's me.
That she
Okay.
calls for you.
Yes. T and TT.
Is there a message
Your
you
daughter,
would
she's
send
making
to
a life for
Taylor's
herself?
father? He's been named a person of interest. Is there anything you would say to him or want?
There's nothing we have to say. Okay.
Your daughter was making a life for herself, and so what she was doing, how she was making her way and making her way and making a life for her son. What was she doing for
Well,
her?
she had just moved. She was working at CVS. She had just moved out here. This was her first month that she lived here. And very happy to have a better place than what she had before. And for a 20-year-old, she was doing well. She wanted more out of life. And, you know, we're without words.
Now, police were naming Talon's father, Thomas Mosley, as a person of interest in Passion's stabbing death as well as Talon's disappearance. This was because it had been discovered by medical staff that the cuts on Thomas's hands and arms were consistent with injuries that would be obtained by slippage during a knife attack. The police search for Talon would lead them to Lake Majori at Dell Holmes Park. The sprawling city park with trails, a fishing pier, and putting green is south of downtown St. Petersburg and sits about a mile away from where Thomas Mosley had lived. The reason why police had gone to this area to look for Talon was because a fisherman had called them and said that he had seen something in an alligator's mouth that looked like it might be a child's body. Upon locating the alligator, police had to fire one shot and put the animal down. They were then able to recover Talon's body. Even though his body was still intact, Talon had passed away. Authorities believed that Thomas had either thrown or placed his son into the lake where he had been found. Now, Thomas, who was still in the hospital, was not cooperating with police and wouldn't tell them any information about what had happened. But regardless, when he was released from the hospital on March 31st, Thomas was immediately booked into Pinellas County Jail and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. At the time of his arrest, Thomas was not in school and had no job. He did show some signs of mental illness, however, but he's never been diagnosed with any type of mental illness. When the detectives searched Passion's apartment, they would find a cleaning bottle with a bloody fingerprint on it that had been shoved underneath the bed, like someone was trying to hide it. This fingerprint would later match up to Thomas's. In addition, a bloody shoe print with a Gucci logo had been found next to Passion's body. It was confirmed that Thomas had actually been wearing a pair of Gucci slides when he had arrived at his mother's house on the night of the 29th. So when police had obtained Passion's cell phone records, they found that her cell phone had left her apartment that night at 8:42 p.m. Shortly after that, it had pinged near Lake Majori, where Talon's body had later been found. When an autopsy was performed on Talon's body, it would be determined that he had not died because the alligator had gotten a hold of him, but rather the little boy had died from drowning. Thomas made his first appearance in court over the telephone, and he pled not guilty to the murders of Talon and Passion. Now, the prosecution has been trying to get a hold of Thomas's medical records from the night he had gone to the hospital after killing Talon and Passion. It's reported that he had surgery while he was there, and he was also Baker acted. But the defense was arguing that these medical records were protected under state and federal rights to privacy. But Thomas Mosley's medical records in regards to his lacerations on his hands and arms, as well as his blood work, are relevant to the case. It will give the state information in its investigation as to how the injuries were treated, how severe they were, and if Thomas had made any statements to hospital staff about how the injuries had occurred. During a preliminary hearing, prosecutors played police body cam footage. It shows Passion's mother speaking with an officer shortly after her daughter's body had been found. She told them that they had all smoked marijuana while at Thomas's birthday party on March 29th. However, there didn't seem to be any tension between the couple that she noticed. But then in October of 2023, a judge ruled that Thomas was incompetent to stand trial. This decision was made after reviewing 2 reports from medical professionals who recommended that the best place for Thomas right now is a state mental hospital. Passion and Talon's family were in the courtroom during this decision. It's likely that in the future he will be found competent to stand trial, and he actually has another court date coming up next week on April 22nd to see if he is, at this time, now competent to stand trial and assist in his defense. And prosecutors fully intend on seeking the death penalty against Thomas, as there are multiple aggravating factors in the murders that make him eligible. The specific aggravating circumstances include that one of the victims was under the age of 12, and the victim was particularly vulnerable because the defendant stood in a position of custodial authority over the victim. And sadly, little Talon had just celebrated his 2nd birthday with a Hot Wheels party, only days before his murder. A GoFundMe page was launched to collect donations for Passion and Talon's family to pay for their funeral costs and support the family. Their original goal had been $30,000. But after unexpected funeral and burial arrangement costs had popped up, they had to raise their goal. The campaign received nearly $48,000.
Passion and Talon lived with their aunt, Theo Brickhouse Sales, for a little bit, and she got to know them very well during that time. Mom and son had just moved to their new apartment and were hoping to start a new life.
I want people to remember them as 2 kids who absolutely loved each other.
Talon Mosley and Passion Jeffrey shared a bond that only a mom can have with her son.
Did you ever see this coming?
I told him this morning I would have never in a million years when this week started ever thought that something like this was happening. We were supposed to have Talon Saturday.
Instead, the toddler's great-great-aunt, Theo Brickhouse Sales, is planning his funeral.
Adjusting without them in life is going to be hard.
How do you think you do that?
I don't know. I have no clue. That's my biggest worry was that how they suffered. And when I close my eyes at night, that's all I see was the suffering of both of them.
Now, Talon's family is trying to move forward and appreciate all the love from people they've never met.
I feel like the community has wrapped their arms around us, and it's a wonderful feeling.
The thing was, due to Florida state law, Talon's grieving family had to go to Thomas in order to get his permission to have the medical examiner release Talon's body for his funeral. This is because when a person dies in Florida, their next of kin has control over what happens to their body, and Thomas just happened to be his next of kin. So the medical examiner ended up going to the jail and getting Thomas's permission to release Talon's body to his family. During the conversation that the medical examiner had with Thomas while he was there, Thomas would tell him, "I have no son." Well, not anymore, because you killed him, dipshit. Now that Talon's body had been released back to his family on April 7th, 2023, both family and friends of Passion Jeffrey and her son Talon gathered at First Baptist Church of St. Petersburg to say their goodbyes. Many loved ones wore pink and blue shirts with the mother and son's photo to honor their memory. Passion was lying in a cream-colored casket, and her son Talon was lying in a separate tiny Toy Story decorated blue casket. The mother and son were then buried next to each other at Woodlawn Memory Gardens in St. Petersburg. And a memorial at Dell Holmes Park in St. Petersburg was also dedicated to 2-year-old Taylon Mosley on Saturday, April 1st, 2023.
He's deceived everyone in his life with ease. And he's betrayed all of us with his actions. Before a parole board in 25 years from now, he may seem remorseful, he may beg and plead to be released, he may claim to be changed. Please don't be fooled. He's a monster. And I truly do believe he'll kill again if given the chance.
Maddox Mary Lawrence was born on April 24, 2014, in Syracuse, New York, to her mother, Morgan Lawrence, and her father, Ryan Lawrence. Maddox was an only child who was happy and full of energy. She was also said to have the best laugh, and she was constantly just full of giggles. Maddox's parents, Ryan and Morgan, had met while they had been working for a tea store located inside the Destiny Mall in Syracuse. And at that same time, Morgan was also holding down jobs at 2 clothing stores, one of them being Francesca's. The couple was inseparable and they fell in love quickly. And not long into them dating, Morgan became pregnant with Maddox. And soon after, Ryan and Morgan got married. The family lived in a rented home on the 1000th block of Valley Drive in Syracuse. And due to tight finances, they only had 1 car to share between the two of them. When Maddox was born in 2014, the couple was over the moon. They were thrilled to be new parents, and Maddox was happy and healthy. But then, shortly before Maddox's first birthday, her parents noticed that her dark brown eyes were getting even darker. Worried and thinking this was rather unusual, they brought her into the doctors. There, unfortunately, Maddox would be diagnosed with retina cancer. It's actually a rare form of eye cancer called retinoblastoma. After getting the diagnosis, for months, both Ryan and Morgan drove their daughter to Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York City, where she underwent hours-long chemotherapy treatments targeted directly at the tumor. These treatments could last as long as 6 hours each time. Now, in addition to the couple not bringing in a lot of money, they were also taking time off of work and paying for Maddox's expensive cancer treatments. So along with the stress of their little girl having cancer, their financial problems added even more stress onto both of their shoulders. In order to help ease the situation, Maddox's parents would end up opening a GoFundMe to help pay for her medical bills, and they would raise over $9,000. On February 20th, 2016, Morgan was scheduled to work at her job at Francesca's at the mall. Since they only had 1 car, Ryan and Maddox dropped Morgan off for her shift around 4 p.m. They were supposed to come back later around 10 p.m. to pick her up once her shift was over. However, that never happened. Instead, right before her shift ended, Morgan received a text message from Ryan saying that he had left the car in the parking lot with the keys in it and she could drive herself home. Confused, Morgan walked out to her car, and there she noticed that her husband Ryan also left her a video message, and in it, he indicated he might hurt himself and their baby girl. Morgan freaked out and called 911. She told them the situation, and a missing persons alert as well as an Amber Alert was issued the very next morning on February 21st. The Amber Alert also described Ryan as being emotionally unstable and said that he had a history of mental illness. Syracuse police had actually been called to deal with Ryan multiple times in the year leading up to Maddox's murder, and details of these encounters is what had alerted state police to his possible mental illness. Ryan was actually diagnosed with bipolar and antisocial personality disorder. Police began searching the inner harbor of Syracuse, as well as Baldwinville, which is where Ryan had grown up. Little was known about where Ryan and Maddox may have been, or their mode of transportation. So for the next couple of days, highway signs and televisions flashed the Amber Alert, looking for Maddox. Police were out searching high and low for the father and daughter, leaving no stone unturned. Helicopters were searching along the Seneca River and Highway 690. While other officers searched Whiskey Hollow Road, which is a seasonal road in the town of Memphis, and also near the Tri-County Mall. During all of this, the toddler's mother, Morgan, would make a publicly broadcasted plea to her husband, Ryan, saying,
"If you're listening, please just bring Maddox home. Maddox, I love you, honey. Ryan, please call. We just want to know that the both of you are safe. The whole family loves you. The whole family wants you both home. And we just want to know that you guys are in a good place. And we'd love to see you both as soon as possible."
Thank you, man. Give me 1 second. I'll take some questions if you have them.
Then, 2 days after they had originally gone missing, on February 22nd, authorities received a phone call saying that Ryan had been spotted at a store called Thrifty Shopper on Downer Street in Baldwinsville, New York. A former employee who had happened to be in the store at the time had spotted Ryan and at first thought he was just some homeless man. He smelled strongly of firewood and seemed to be in a hurry, which had drawn her attention to him. But when the ex-employee looked a little bit closer, she realized that she recognized this man. That was regardless of the long black wig he was wearing, as well as the knit cap, sunglasses, and bandana. The ex-employee had recognized Ryan as being the person from the missing persons alert that police had issued, so she contacted authorities. Immediately after they received this tip, police rushed down to where Ryan had been spotted, and they found him walking on a nearby street. As they tried to stop Ryan to speak with him, he told them that he was just headed to a nearby soup kitchen. He was, however, apprehended at that time and brought in. And unbeknownst to police, Maddox had already been dead for about 2 days at this point. Now, when authorities had picked up Ryan, upon asking him what his name was, he had given them the fake name of Roll Rivers. He also gave them a fake birthday. Police called Ryan out on the fact that his name and birthday didn't match, and then one of the officers reached over and pulled the wig off of Ryan's head. At that point, Ryan just said, "You got me." But when the police officer asked Ryan where his daughter Maddox could be found, he gave a very unsettling answer and said, "She's in a better place." And that was it. At the time of his arrest, Ryan had on him a backpack which contained a book called 100 Deadly Skills, which is described in a book review as a hands-on practical survival guide from a retired Navy SEAL, adapted for civilians from actual Special Forces operations, to elude pursuers, evade capture, and survive any dangerous situation. Ryan also had a handcuff key and a camping stove on him. And in addition to lying about his name, Ryan had also lied to police and told them that he had given his daughter Maddox to a couple named Chris and Tyler. He claimed he had met this couple at the Syracuse Real Food Co-op. And he would stick to the story for hours, though the details did begin to change. Tyler soon became Taylor, and Ryan also told police that they had taken his daughter to Bolivia or Mexico or some other place. He couldn't quite get that straight. Syracuse police detectives questioned Ryan all night, and it wasn't until early the next morning that Ryan finally agreed to take them to the places he had gone on the day Maddox went missing. And later that morning, while he was showing an officer the places that he had traveled to, Ryan also made a confession while in the back of the police cruiser. He said to the officer, "You won't look at me the same way once I tell you what I did to her body." And upon Ryan's return back to the police station, he gave a 40-minute confession and then signed a police statement of his confession. Now that Ryan had told police officers where they could find Maddox's body, they began searching Syracuse's Inner Harbor, which is an inlet off the end of Onondaga Lake. And only a couple hours later, state police divers found a body underwater along the creek walk, a biking and hiking path. It was the body of 22-month-old Maddox Lawrence, which had been pulled from the water around noon on February 23rd. Ryan was charged with second-degree murder the same afternoon. However, the charges would be enhanced to first-degree murder and kidnapping a month later on March 23rd. He pled not guilty and was held without bail. Come to find out, Maddox had been killed not very long after she and her father had dropped Morgan off for work that day. After they had dropped her off, Ryan then drove with Maddox down Interstate 81 towards Tinker Falls. It's a secluded waterfall that's popular in the warmer months. There's also a park surrounding it, where Ryan would bring Maddox. Once they were in the park, Ryan took a wooden baseball bat and beat Maddox in the head until she died. He also told detectives that prior to killing his daughter, he had prayed and said, "God, if I'm not meant to kill her, make her stumble." After he had killed her, Ryan then burned Maddox's body in a fire pit for 3 hours and then took her body back out and placed it into his car. He had then driven to the creek where she would eventually be found. There, he tied her body to a cinder block and dropped her into the water. Ryan's plan was to make everyone think that Maddox had simply run away. He killed his daughter and then was going to run far off so he could kill himself, he said. And the reason he had all the survival gear on him when police found him was because he said he needed to make it to the Ohio River prior to killing himself. He hoped that if he made it there, his body could wash all the way down to the Caribbean. That's where his mother's ashes had been disposed of in 2008. Yet chances are an entire adult body, is not going to get all the way down the Ohio River into the Caribbean without a single person seeing it. So, either a lie or a terrible plan. Ryan's mother, Mary Lawrence, had died of kidney cancer in 2008. And ironically, Mary had been the director of the Victims Advocate Program at the Onondaga County District Attorney's Office. And she had held this position for 10 years after her brother had been murdered in 1990. So Ryan's explanation for killing Maddox varied, but one of the explanations that he gave was that he didn't want her to grow up without a father, and at that point, he had already determined that he was going to kill himself. He said at first he had thought about just running away with her and letting her live, but then he said he realized he didn't want his daughter to grow up without a mother, so that's when he decided to kill her. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Before killing his daughter, Ryan had even tried to build his own kayak out of cardboard and plastic wrap. This, however, he had deemed to be not seaworthy for some reason, so that plan had been abandoned. Ryan would also later tell a psychiatrist that the reason he had burned his daughter's body was because he thought it increased his chances of not getting caught. And if he went to prison, he knew that he wouldn't be able to kill himself in the way he wanted. After the murder, Ryan dropped off the family car at the Destiny USA Mall for Morgan to drive herself home. He also left the video message at this time, and in it he said, "Morgan, I love you, but I can't do this anymore. I want you to have the life you deserve." He then told her that he had taken Maddox with him, but he said nothing about the fact that he had already killed his daughter at that point. And after leaving the car in the parking lot, Ryan had then walked to Baldwinsville, where he had hoped to find a boat. Ryan claimed he eventually planned on committing suicide or just dying due to starvation or infection. But I seriously doubt it. It sounds like he just wanted to take off in a boat and get away with the murder. The odd thing was that Ryan had always seemed like a loving father. When he did morning pastry deliveries for the cafe that him and Morgan both worked for, he would never leave Maddox in the car. Even if it was just for a quick delivery, he would always take her out and bring her in with him. The father had actually done everything he could to make sure his daughter was happy and safe. That is, up until February 20th. A little while after Ryan had been arrested, his defense team made the claim that the confession their client had given to authorities after his arrest had not been legally obtained. And at a hearing that was held to determine if Ryan's confession could be used as evidence, Ryan testified that he had wanted to stop talking to police hours into his interrogation, but they had just kept pushing him. The detective who had questioned Ryan said otherwise, however. He said that Ryan had been actively engaged in the conversation the entire time, and he had been the one that was willing to take them to where Maddox's body was. It wouldn't matter in the end, though, because Ryan would take a plea deal that Maddox's family had agreed to, and on September 15th, 2016, Ryan pled guilty to first-degree murder. He was then sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. During Ryan's sentencing hearing, he admitted to beating his 1-year-old daughter to death, as tears streamed down his face. Ryan's lawyer said that his client was just devastated for what he had done and at this point, he would do anything to take it back. It was theorized that Ryan had actually been jealous due to all the attention that Maddox was getting because of her cancer diagnosis, compared to the attention that he was not getting, though this theory was never confirmed by Ryan or his defense team. Ryan would also later say that at the time of his daughter's murder, he had been suffering from a psychotic disorder which had been brought on by a number of problems that he did not think he could solve. He was working at a dead-end job as a gas station attendant. He had a suspended driver's license and a $1,000 fine that he didn't have the money to pay. His car was also uninspected, his marriage was falling apart, and 8 years later, he was still very much grieving his mother's death. The day before Ryan murdered Maddox, he had actually brought her to the same exact spot with intentions of killing her then. However, he decided he couldn't go through with it. But he had then gone back the next day. So he had a lot of time to think it through and decide, maybe I shouldn't do this. But he did it anyways. So there was serious premeditation. A psychiatrist that had been hired by the defense found that Ryan was suffering from an extreme emotional disturbance at the time of the murder. He had symptoms of non-psychotic mental illness. The psychiatrist also said that Ryan had told him that his dead mother had been the one that spoke to him and told him to let her take care of Maddox, and that was why he killed her. But Ryan's family doesn't believe for a second that he ever heard voices. In addition, Ryan also told this psychiatrist that he had been a heavy drug user from the age of 16 to 20. He had used LSD, cocaine, mushrooms, marijuana, ketamine, and ecstasy. However, he said he hadn't used any drugs in the week prior to his daughter's murder. On top of all of this, Ryan also told the psychiatrist that he had stolen from every single job that he ever had, and he had been caught by at least one of the employers and fired. The families of both Ryan Lawrence and Morgan Lawrence would give statements in court explaining how hurt they were and still are because of Ryan's actions. The first to speak was Maddox's aunt and then uncle. Her uncle, Richard Lawrence, Ryan's brother, said that the brother he once knew is now dead. He then said, "Maddox is the victim and you, my brother, are to blame. You are a stranger and also a murderer." And rather than being there for a murderer, like I've seen so many family members do when telling these stories, instead, Rich supported Morgan every step of the way while they got justice for Maddox. Rich Lawrence would also say that his brother Ryan lacked direction, was selfish, was a slacker, never took responsibility well, and never took authority well either. But he was generally good-hearted, he said. That's probably the only good thing you could say about him from the sounds of it. And later on in Ryan's sentencing, Morgan Lawrence's parents, Maddox's grandparents, went to the stand to speak about how much losing their granddaughter had affected them. The heartbroken grandfather spoke about all the milestones that he will now miss in his granddaughter Maddox's life. He said, "I will miss out on her attending preschool. I won't be able to take a picture of her on the steps of the school bus for her first day of kindergarten. I won't hear her recite the alphabet or count to 100. Then Morgan, Maddox's mother, went on to speak directly to her ex-husband Ryan.
Okay. His completely irrational actions have left me with no answers or closure. Ryan has not only taken my daughter away, but also abandoned me as well, leaving me with feelings of extreme loneliness and sadness. This situation also leaves me questioning my own judgment of others' intentions and their character. Burying my daughter alone was the single most howling experience I've ever endured. Knowing her death was at the hands of a man that I once loved and trusted with our lives shakes me to the core. Because of what Ryan has done, I can never again be sure that I know someone for who they truly are. Ryan Lawrence's actions have affected the lives of others as well. Maddox was loved by everyone she met. She was strong and inspiring. She's missed greatly by everyone who knew her. And those who were very close to her, such as our family, are heartbroken and outraged. I want her to be known for who she was, and I want to be known for the loving mom and wife that I truly was. As a result of Ryan's actions, I need for him to spend the rest of his lifetime in prison. I fear for my safety, and I fear for the safety of others who are released back into the community. He's deceived everyone in his life with ease. And he's betrayed all of us with his actions. He's charismatic and believable when he wants to manipulate a situation in his favor. Before a parole board 25 years from now, he may seem remorseful, he may beg and plead to be released, he may claim to be changed. Please don't be fooled. He's a monster. And I truly do believe he'll kill again if given the chance. Don't give him that chance. This is the most horrible thing I've ever endured in my life. But I want you to know, you will not drag me down. I will rise above this and honor my daughter with my own life. You took Maddox's only chance at life, Ryan. And therefore, you don't deserve another chance at your own.
Ryan was also given the chance to speak before his sentence was handed down. He accepted blame for his actions and told the courtroom how he loved his daughter.
It's incredibly hard to talk about this for many reasons, and even harder to find the words to explain such a horrible crime. It's with all of my heart that I convey my sincerest apology to everyone for taking Maddox from her family and everyone who loved her. I'm also utterly sorry for denying Maddox her chance at life. I can't expect your forgiveness, but I tell you now that the sorrow I feel for what I've done is complete and comes from the deepest depths of my being. This sorrow I feel has nothing to do with being in jail, but for the pain, for the loss of Maddox. I miss her so bad. Max is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, and the best thing that's ever happened to me. I'd say that to her all the time, and to anyone else who'd listen. It was amazing to have her everywhere I went, including all the times I brought her to work with me. When our baby was diagnosed with cancer, we were in shock, but hopeful that the doctors in New York City would cure her, as indeed they did. Even after enduring countless overnight trips to the hospital and fruitless attempts at soothing a baby who couldn't possibly understand why she couldn't eat for hours before invasive treatment procedures, the threat of her cancer returning was very real. Our work schedules were arranged so that one of us was always with the baby, but there was very little time for the three of us together, nor enough money for a sitter or much of anything else. Still, we treated her and fed her better than we did ourselves, and loved her far more than anything else we've ever known. In no way can I justify my actions, and there is no one to blame but myself. There is no good explanation for such a horrendous crime, and regret is too simple a term to describe what I feel. What I can say is I've never felt such strong emotions towards anything in my life than my ever-growing and unconditional love for Maddox, and now I'm completely distraught by overwhelming grief and anguish for what I've done. I was never jealous of my daughter. Both our families know I love Maddox. If anything, I only wanted more for her. Max was always at the top of my list, and is constantly, to this day, the focal point of my thoughts and actions since she first came into my life. I'll never overcome this feeling of loss, but I will spend the rest of my life trying to figure out how I got to such a dark, irrational state. She was my life's purpose, and making her happy was my job. Such strong feelings of love, however, brought equally strong feelings of fear and uncertainty when it came to my responsibility for her happiness. Although I blamed no one else for my acts, as the pressures to give her the perfect life built up, I also struggled against relentless waves of negative emotions every day, bearing witness to the pain and sadness in many of my wife and daughter's interactions. Yet no reason and no psychological diagnosis seemed plausible to me to have made me commit this act against my very nature, taking the one thing I love most. This Easter, my father, weeping, asked me what I was thinking. In despair, I gave him the only answer I could. I don't know. Although these pressures led me to this unthinkable act, I cannot now make sense of what I did. There's no valid reason for why our daughter Maddox had to die. Not a second goes by when I don't wish I could take back what I did, and that Maddox would still be alive. I pray all the time that she's in a better place and that God and my mother are watching over her. To Morgan and all of those who loved her, I hope that from my plea and acceptance of responsibility, you can find at least some measure of closure from the pain I inflicted. This was, and is, without question, the worst act I will ever commit. I recognize that no one but myself can be blamed for this atrocity, and I will always be traumatized knowing I'm responsible for such incomprehensible actions. Although I accept this punishment, nothing can be worse. Nothing can be worse than my own despair at the loss of Maddox, and I regret that I'm not alone in that feeling. I love my daughter with all my heart. The only thing that can match my love and loss of her now is the dreadful pain and remorse I feel for committing such a terribly terrible crime. I'm sorry. I know I can never be sorry enough.
And the judge would say to Ryan,
"There is no term for a parent who loses a child. That's how awful it is. I say this to you in order to describe to everyone, in some small way, the scope and breadth and devastating result of your callous and selfish and horrific acts in taking Maddox's life. You had no right to decide when she should die. And what you did not kill was the love in the hearts of so many relatives and friends. That love in their hearts will live forever."
Ryan Lawrence is currently being held in the Sing Song Correctional Facility, which is a maximum security prison about 30 miles north of New York City. Beginning the same day that Maddox's body had been found, people began placing vibrant flowers, stuffed animals, and candles along the creek walk as a memorial to the toddler. The mementos were placed right below the crime scene tape, separating the walkway from the devastating scene where the baby girl's body had been pulled from the water. And a memorial also popped up in front of Maddox's home on the 1000th block of Valley Drive in Syracuse. A sense of deep sadness had taken over the neighborhood. Those who had heard the heartbreaking news had started to leave balloons and candles, and a drawing left at the home said on it, "Rest peacefully, baby Maddox." A private funeral was later held for Maddox Lawrence. Well, thank you for listening to all of Maddox's story today. This just doesn't make sense to me. Ryan was fighting to keep his daughter alive for months on end, and then one day he just decided to kill her? I don't understand why, and none of his excuses seem to be making any sense. Though, is there really ever a reason for killing an innocent child that would make sense? So, if you do like true crime and you want to hear it from me, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button below and turn on those notifications too, so you'll know when I upload a new video, which is 2 to 3 times every week. Thanks for watching A Wicked World today. Until next time, take care, guys. Bye.
These girls, ages 5, 8, and 9 years old, these sisters reported missing on Friday after a scheduled visitation with their father, 32-year-old Travis Decker of Wenatchee. Decker is now on the run and wanted for 3 counts of murder in the deaths of his 3 daughters.
Nine-year-old Peyton, 8-year-old Evelyn, and 5-year-old Olivia Decker were born in Washington to their parents Whitney and Travis Decker. The sisters all attended Lincoln Elementary School in the Wenatchee School District, where Peyton was in the 3rd grade, Evelyn in 2nd grade, and Olivia in kindergarten. The oldest, Peyton, was said to be athletic and kind to others. She was a leader and would always cheer the loudest for those on her team. Evelyn was described as being spunky. She loved to dance and was also a fierce protector over her little sister. It was said that the youngest of the 3, Olivia, always had a smile on her face, and she was a very sweet friend to others. The girls' father, Travis, had served in the U.S. Army from 2013 to 2021 as an infantryman, and during his time, he'd been deployed overseas to Afghanistan. He had trained to be an airborne paratrooper who earned his elite Ranger tab, meaning that he has elite wilderness evasion and survival skills. Travis also currently has a pending disciplinary charge from the National Guard for not showing up to his monthly drills. In November of 2022, after 7 years of marriage, Travis's wife Whitney filed for divorce, though he had actually already moved out of the family home the previous month. Travis had then gone to stay at the Wenatchee National Guard Armory for some time, before he moved into his own apartment a few months later. Once his lease was up, Travis bought an RV and moved to Idaho. That's until his RV was repossessed not long after. When Travis and Whitney first went their separate ways, they put a parenting plan into place, as they were now sharing custody of the girls. And for a while, things seemed to go smoothly. There were no issues reported and no complaints of the girls being mistreated in any way. Once the couple's divorce was finalized in March of 2023, Travis was granted alternative weekend custody of them. But by the following year, Whitney began to worry about her ex-husband. According to her, Travis was now homeless and he was becoming more and more unstable. This left the mother fearing for her daughter's emotional well-being. So in September of 2024, she filed with the court to modify their custody agreement. In her filing, Whitney listed multiple incidents that had happened in the past. According to her, back in August of 2023, Travis had declined to have his regularly scheduled weekend visits with his daughters. And around this time, the girls would say that they often felt like they were walking on eggshells when they were with him. A few months after that, in December of 2023, Olivia would FaceTime her mother while she was in her father's care. The little girl was crying uncontrollably in clear distress, but Travis was nowhere to be seen. Once her sister Peyton went to find Travis, who was outside walking his dogs, he would tell Whitney that Peyton and Olivia had been at the Armory's gym unsupervised. And Olivia was playing on the lay-down pull machine when her fingers got smashed. While he was talking, both Olivia and Peyton were still bawling, but Travis was doing nothing to comfort them. Then, in July of 2024, the father had arrived at Whitney's house hours late after hitchhiking there, and he asked her if he could stay in her basement. There was another occasion where he had entered her home uninvited and began yelling to his children. But the biggest thing that made Whitney request that Travis no longer have their daughters overnight was when she had found out about their sleeping arrangements. During the time that Travis had been staying at the Armory, he had actually informed Whitney that he'd been living out of his RV, and that's where the girls stayed. But the mother later found out that Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia had actually been sleeping on mattresses in the Armory, surrounded by dozens of strange men. Even though his behavior greatly concerned Whitney, and she knew that Travis had to make some changes for his daughter's sake, she also believed that he loved the girls very much, and she didn't want to keep him from them. She did, however, in addition to requesting that his visits no longer be overnight, asked that they also be supervised going forward. Whitney wrote in her legal filing, "I do not want to keep Travis from the girls at all. To the contrary, I have bent over backwards to facilitate that relationship. But I cannot have our girls staying in what is essentially a homeless shelter at times, unsupervised, with dozens of strange men, or staying in a tent or living in a truck with him, both in extreme temperatures and unknown areas for their safety. Whitney had alleged that her ex-husband was suffering from borderline personality disorder, though she did not believe he was taking medication for it at the time. And he was also a narcissist, both of which had been reasons why she had filed for divorce from him in the first place. Travis was said to be dealing with PTSD too. Whitney stated that there had never been any DV in their relationship, though there had been times where Travis could get rather controlling. She said that Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia were smart and happy kids who were well adjusted. That's with the exception of when Travis brought them back after visits. According to her, the girls would begin screaming and crying at drop-offs, or sometimes just even after they spoke to Travis on the phone. Once Whitney had made this custody request to the courts, they decided to revise Travis's visitation rights to day visits only. However, these wouldn't be supervised visits as Whitney had hoped. But Travis was required to get a psych evaluation done for his anger management and DV. He was also supposed to go to counseling, neither of which he would do. Then he refused to sign the custody agreement altogether. So as of May 2025, Travis was allowed to see his children every other weekend on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, but never overnight. And these visits were required to take place in the Wenatchee Valley. On the afternoon of Friday, May 30th, 2025, Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia went for a scheduled visit with their father. It was only supposed to be for 3 hours, but once that time had passed and Travis had not shown up, Whitney began to get worried. By now, it was 8 o'clock, and the father was not supposed to have his daughters overnight. So at 8:45 p.m., Whitney contacted police and told them that her ex had not yet returned their children, as required by their custody agreement. She also informed them that things had recently gotten rather hostile between the pair due to Travis's lack of housing. He had never done anything like this before, though. The girls had a good relationship with their father and seemed to enjoy spending time with him. Now, when the mother had handed her daughters off to Travis earlier that day around 5 p.m., she said that there was no issues. However, he was a bit more quiet than normal. She figured that this was just because he was extra stressed out lately. Not only did Travis not have a stable place to live, but he also had a pending traffic ticket that had been a financial burden on him. Additionally, his wages had been garnished for child support, and he had recently been talking about getting rid of his dog who was really important to him. The day after their mother reported them missing, on Saturday, May 31st, police put out an alert asking the public for their assistance in locating Travis, Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia. While the girls' disappearances did not meet the criteria for an Amber Alert to be sent out, an Endangered Missing Persons Alert was issued by Washington State Patrol. Apparently, the Amber Alert hadn't gone out as authorities didn't believe that the children were in imminent danger at the time. This was likely since Whitney had told them that Travis had never done anything like this previously, and he'd never been violent towards his daughters in the past. Police discovered that while Travis's phone had been shut off, automatic license plate readers spotted him heading north out of Wenatchee at 5:41 p.m. in his 2017 white GMC Sierra truck. The girls' mother, Whitney, also took to Facebook asking for help in locating her girls, along with posting pictures of them and Travis. Then she made a heartbreaking appeal through the media in which she said, "I just want the girls back, home safe and sound. That is the most important thing to me. I am concerned about the safety and well-being of my girls and their dad. This is an unimaginable situation. I am pleading for everyone to look out for them." Whitney additionally stated that she had never had any problems with her ex before when he had the children, and she had never thought that his battles with his mental health would make him dangerous. She said, "Travis has really struggled since he left the military, and his mental health can be hard sometimes. He is impulsive and he loves his children very much."
Take a good look at your screen. The siblings are Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia, ranging in age from 5 to 9 years old. Whitney thinks Travis may have taken them on an unscheduled camping trip. Where do you think he might be headed?
He was last pinged going out of Leavenworth, the 76 station. So I'm thinking up in the mountains. He prefers a secluded area with maybe some running water and a nice campfire. And so probably somewhere in there.
Whitney doesn't know, but she wonders if his truck broke down or if his phone died.
He's never done anything like this before. He's always very responsive if there's any deviation to the parenting plan that's necessary. So this was really unexpected.
Yeah. Well, I'm so sorry you're going through this. What do you want to say to them and to the girls?
I just love them so much, and I hope they're safe. I hope that their dad is safe, and then I just hope that he realizes that he can bring them home and that we can figure out anything else after this.
Authorities would soon find that Travis had been at the west end of Leavenworth on Saturday. So they began searching the wooded areas around that town, but had no luck in locating the girls or their father. Then, just a couple days later, around 5 p.m. on June 2nd, the Endangered Missing Persons Alert was canceled. No other information was revealed until the following day. And when it was what everyone had feared. Police stated that Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia had all been found deceased at the Rock Island campground, about 18 miles west of the town of Leavenworth. All three had been discovered with plastic bags over their heads, and authorities said they believed they had died from asphyxiation. The girls, who were found wearing the same outfits that they had been wearing on Friday, had their wrists zip-tied, or showed signs that they had previously been tied. Additionally, more plastic bags and zip ties were located nearby.
So I'm Amy Edwards, and this is Mark Belton, and we are both friends of Whitney Decker and the Decker family.
To our community, the Wenatchee Valley, thank you. The outpouring of love, generosity, and support has been overwhelming, not only here in the Wenatchee Valley, but from the communities around the world. We are deeply moved and profoundly grateful. Seeing everyone come together and unite in support of this family has been humbling and reminds us of what makes the Wenatchee Valley so special. That compassion has been a source of light in this dark hour.
This valley helped nurture the creativity, confidence, and joy that Peyton and Evelyn and Olivia shined so brightly. Whether it was performing on stage with Short Shakespeareans and Music Theater of Wenatchee, dancing with the Fabulous Feet Dance Studio, playing sports, or walking the halls of Lincoln Elementary, their laughter, curiosity, and spirit left a mark on all of us. They were the kind of children that everyone rooted for, looked forward to seeing, and held close in their hearts. They are cherished, not just by the family, but by our entire community who watched them grow, perform, learn, and love. We ache with the love we still carry for them, and we always will.
The girls were found after a deputy had located Travis's truck close to the campground, which was on Icicle Road. As they began to search the area, they quickly came across the bodies of the three sisters down a small embankment about 75 to 100 yards away from Travis's vehicle. At the campsite that was close by, a tent and a cooler had been left, like someone had recently been staying there. Inside of Travis's truck, officers found blankets, car seats, and a wallet on the center console. Then, on the tailgate of that truck, 2 bloody handprints were located, which were later confirmed to belong to an adult. However, Travis himself was nowhere to be seen. Now, just hours before the girls' bodies had been located, their father had been charged with 3 counts of first-degree custodial interference. But once his daughters were found, this was upgraded to 3 counts of first-degree murder and 3 counts of first-degree kidnapping. Authorities soon learned that Travis had driven to the campground on the night of May 29th. Then he had returned the following day with his children. His phone had also pinged in that area on Saturday, May 31st. SWAT teams and federal agencies, including Homeland Security and the U.S. Forest Services, quickly descended on the area, and they began to search for 32-year-old Travis Decker. He's described as being 5 feet 8 inches tall, weighs 190 pounds, and has black hair and brown eyes. Travis was last seen wearing a light-colored shirt and dark shorts. He has not yet been located, and anyone who sees him or knows his whereabouts is urged to immediately call 911. He is considered to be armed and dangerous. The hunt for Travis has since expanded, and a $20,000 reward is being offered for any information leading to his arrest.
Police have shut down public access to the Enchantments. This is the area just near the Cascade Mountains, about 20 miles south of Rock Island Campground, where those little girls were found. And if we do zoom in here, these are the areas walled off from the public right now. These campgrounds all along the ridge of the mountains. Again, an extremely popular place to hike and camp, so much so that you have to win an advanced lottery just to get a permit to camp there. Chelan County is also telling people who have cabins or live in remote areas of Chelan, Kittitas, King, Snohomish, and Okanagan counties to keep the doors locked, including on sheds and outbuildings, and keep those blinds open and the outside lights on.
In addition to his time in the military, Travis was also an avid outdoorsman who had gone to mountain survival school. This could potentially make the search for him all that more challenging. His own father has publicly spoken too and said that Travis has been known to live off the grid for as long as 2.5 months at a time. Now, I think that the bloody handprints that were discovered on his truck are his way of trying to throw investigators off, because there shouldn't have been any blood as the girls were suffocated. I'm thinking it was from a self-inflicted injury that he had done with the sole intention of leaving those handprints behind. So maybe police would think that he was dead and not continue to look for him. According to the family's neighbor, Bin Wen, he'd seen Travis picking the girls up from their mother's home that Friday. He said that the father seemed rather sad and kept asking him over and over how he was, which he thought was rather odd. It was like he couldn't remember that he had already asked him that. Then, when the neighbor returned the question to Travis, he informed him that he was currently working in construction out of state. Now, as far as Bin knew, the Deckers were a happy family. But one time, he'd seen Whitney with her arm in a sling and Travis with his face all bruised up. When he'd asked about the swelling, Travis complained that it was from allergies. Bin would additionally say that in the past, Whitney had told him that Travis had gone crazy and beat her. These outbursts had eventually been what led to their divorce. He went on to describe Whitney as being the perfect mother who worked 2 jobs and went to college to better her children's lives. Not only that, but she enrolled the girls in sports, dance, and often took them on trips to Disney World. The neighbor added that Evelyn had once made him a friendship bracelet as a way to thank him for mowing their lawn. And Peyton had introduced herself to Bin's son by giving him a handwritten card with a crumpled up $1 bill inside. In the letter, she said that she couldn't write well yet, but was hoping to learn in school. Whitney's father, Chris Richter, the girl's grandfather, has spoken publicly as well. And he's not happy that his daughter reported Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia as missing on Friday night. But it took until Saturday for an endangered missing persons alert to be issued. And no Amber Alert was sent out. On top of that, a warrant for Travis's arrest wasn't issued until Monday, meaning that he had a nearly 3-day head start. Chris then spoke about his 3 granddaughters, and he said, "They were sweet, nice girls. They were just charming and great. The oldest, Peyton, just ran her first track meet, a 100-meter dash. She wanted a guitar for her birthday, and I just bought her one." The grandfather had also recently given Olivia a drum set that she loved to play. Following Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia's deaths, their mother's friends started a GoFundMe for Whitney. All funds raised will go directly to her to help cover her daughter's funeral expenses, as well as help give her some time off of work so that she can have the space to heal without financial pressures. Close to $900,000 has already been raised.
The outpouring of support seems never-ending.
My heart goes out to the family, and just hearing about this, I can't imagine this happening.
Terry Frank and family brought flowers.
Here you go, honey. That's for you guys. 1, 2, and 3.
More tributes to Peyton, Olivia, and Evelyn Decker. These sunny days feel awfully dark. Back at the memorial, community struggles, reflects, cries.
Losing a child is tough, but losing 3, no. No mother should have to go through that.
Some bring their children who learned of this tragedy in school.
She was telling me, what they did for the girls is do cards at school today and, just remember them.